So good morning. So thanks for the management and the faculty of SRM, and for all the students. I last saw about 110 students log in. On a Saturday, I was expecting very less numbers. So that puts more onus on me to give you a useful talk. Let me try my best. Good thing, I think last year, February 2020 is when I met many of you. Some of you might have also attended that session. So for the same set of students, probably, or the same college, same department, I'm doing a talk on the same similar lines. That puts the onus on me that I should talk something new. I can't say the same old story. So one advantage of being a teacher is every year you can take the same syllabus, but we can't in the industry, we just can't do that. So we have to come up with new stuff. So what we'll do in the next 20-30 minutes or so, I'll walk you through this presentation. Then I want you to use the opportunity for more Q&A. I think that's a better way of making use of this time rather than just being a monologue. So what I have planned is, I'm not going to go walk through the history of AI, what is AI, different types of AI, how is machine learning connected with AI, when was it done, all that. I'm sure all of you are more familiar with these things than me. And you would have already written code on these and tried out projects and all that. So let's not get into all that. We all know AI is good. AI is taking over the world. It's taken over the world. A lot of the things that we do, we feel, we eat, we buy, is all today determined by AI. So AI is important. So let's start with that premise. Then we look at what various areas in which AI is being used, various industries. I like to talk about few industries you might not have thought about where AI is used. Then we look at some job roles that typically what AI, when we talk about a job on AI, what does it fall into? So it typically falls into these 5-6 buckets. We will see them. That will give you an idea on the type of jobs that you can do in AI. Then we look at some real world examples on the number of jobs available and so on. Then we look at what you can do to prepare yourself while you're in the college. Then what you can do after you leave the college, and then we will see what are the different jobs that you can look at. So this is kind of the broad idea that I want to go on. Though the topics is many, I'm only going to give you CDU ideas and you can explore them later. Hope that's fine. This is the history of AI. Like I said, I don't want to get into all these details, but one of the fascinating stories whenever I think about AI is that people have been taught or thinking about AI even 800 years before. So this is about, you might want to check out this in Wikipedia. There's this Catalan poet. Catalan is in Spain. So he's a Catalan poet called Ramon Lull. In 1308, he writes his book called Ars Generalius Ultima, where he talks about combining existing pieces of knowledge and creating something new. He was imagining a paper-based system of knowledge written in paper. You combine multiple things and create new knowledge. If you think about it, at the core, that's what is AI today. We are taking existing knowledge or existing training data, and then we are trying to come up with some new inference. That's what at the end of the day, AI is all about, whether it is self-driving cars or whether it is a social media post or vision recognition or speech recognition, anything you talk about in AI, ultimately it's about taking existing data and then creating something new or some inference, some intelligence out of it. So this is a good example. I like to always, again, orient on what's AI. Then this will be the last slide from me on what is AI. So you don't need to worry about, I'm not going to be talking about all the principles, everything in this talk. This is a good example from Harvard Business Report. So if you haven't, you should actually go and check out this article. It's a 2018 article on April, a simple tool to start making decisions with the help of AI Canvas, or you can just search AI Canvas in Harvard Business Report. It's a beautiful framework. They kind of give you a framework on how you can use an AI system to make a decision. The example they actually use is a fire alarm. Many of us might have seen fire alarms. Your college might be having, or many of the industries, it's actually compulsory, especially when we work with abroad clients on multiple floors. We get this data. Okay, you have those signals, you have those sensors, you get those signals. Then you can report whenever there is a fire or you sense an increase in temperature, you actually raise an alarm. But the problem is some of those times, especially in a restaurant or in a kitchen, this could be a common way of you cooking, and that's just raising the temperature to come down. It's not a fire. But every time if you're going to keep raising an alarm, then the effectiveness of this is going to go away. People are not going to trust your data. It's the typical tiger is coming, a boy was shouting, and then the tiger never came. And when it really came, people didn't take him seriously. Now, it becomes irritating. Many of the times when we get notifications, we get irritated, we turn off all the notification, but then suddenly something very important comes and we miss it out. That's what happens. So what you want actually your systems to be is to be smart. Raise these alarms only when it's really, really critical. And what if these systems are also connected to your 100 or 108 or whatever is in India? So you don't want to keep calling those fire engines every time when there is a small cooking or simple smoke coming in your office or house. What happens in this case, this canvas, it actually has 7 buckets, 7 boxes. You write prediction, judgment, action, outcome. I'll not explain them, but broadly, you write these things. What is the prediction you want to do? What is the judgment you want to base it on? What is the action you want to take? And how do you want to train it? So that kind of outlines. So you fill up these boxes, and then you basically use your historic data to actually train the model and saw what was the output, the feedback, and then gives it like give it back. Kind of like a loop. You close, you get a data, you raise an alarm, you find out what happened, and then you close it. So as you keep getting more and more feedback that when you raise this alarm, it was incorrect, it was wrong, then your system learns. Or when you raise it correctly and fire engine came and a fire was averted, then you actually know the system can keep learning that it's better. And the advantage with this system, it's not only for your house, it's for all those thousands of fire alarm systems that you have, fire sensors, you put in everywhere in a lot of your customers. So this is how an AA system typically can add value rather than just raising alarms. So that's what the Harvard Business Report AA Canvas actually helps you to do. You can take it for any scenario. You're thinking about doing an AA project. You can start with this AA Canvas and start writing in these boxes so that you'll clearly know what is that you're trying to achieve rather than just right away start writing code. This is a better way for you to do this. What are the areas? So we'll switch gears. So we talked about history of AI. We talked about how AI could be used in one scenarios. Now we'll switch gears. What are the areas in which AI today is used? We're all familiar with banking and finance. So Professor Krishnamurthy, can you mute everybody else other than me?
Yeah, I will do that, sir. I will do that, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will mute everyone.
Yes.
You can unmute, sir. You can unmute.
Okay, I'll do that. Please go ahead.
I'll unmute you, sir. You can unmute, sir.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So we look at various areas. So again, I'm not going to go into details because my idea is to more focus on the jobs that you can look at. Typically, when we think about AI or if any of these latest technologies is first used in industry and banking and finance, whether it is banks or insurance companies or your credit score companies, a lot of them are actually using AI and they've been using machine learning for quite some time. So they are kind of pioneers in this. Second, of course, is your e-commerce companies. They are actually leading the way. All your Amazons of the world, Flipkarts of the world, so on and so forth. Even the traditional companies are using, actually Walmart is using AI to actually find out customer buying habits online and then using it as a feedback onto your offline stores. So they kind of sense that, okay, this particular item is moving fast online. There is very likely chance it's going to be bought offline also or vice versa. So there's a lot of things in which we don't even think AI is being used or it's being taken advantage of, is actually being done. In the last couple of years, especially in the pandemic, there is phenomenal amount of usage of this data because people are not getting so many other sensors. So the third, of course, is marketing, where typically think of your Googles and Facebook. Google online advertisements use lots of machine learning, so much of machine learning for your search, advertisements, and all that. Similarly, is your Facebook and all your Twitters and your TikToks of the world, all using this to learn and keep when TikTok was around, you started, you kind of waste 30 minutes. You don't know where it went. You just keep watching. You thought it's only 30 seconds videos. You will end up watching like 30, 40, 50 TikTok videos. Or in Facebook, if I go to Facebook, it's completely useless other than few posts from some intelligent people I follow. But other than that, you just keep wasting your time. And especially in election time now, you just keep getting worried for no reasons. None of us or most of us are not standing in any of the parties or elections. But then we just get worried or we get as if somebody is attacking us or our choice is bad. It's really worrying. So, but anyway, that's altogether a different discussion. But there's a lot of AI and ML being used there. Then, of course, is sales. Today, a lot of the sales pipeline is actually driven by AI. We won't be even knowing. Not only marketing, but sales and resupplies, supply chain, it's being heavily used. Of course, in the pandemic, healthcare, a lot of these drugs, the Pfizer drug, the Pfizer mRNA vaccine that's been done in US and UK, every amount of machine learning was done. They got something like 10 million signals they have to go through to pick up whether this particular combination is actually working for that, making that mRNA. So much of machine learning and AI was used to make this virus, not only in manufacturing, but also in the test. For test also, they got several thousand data signal points, and they have to go through it and present it, and in the shortest time, they couldn't have collated it. See, when Moderna had the vaccine in the US, it was like February or March, I think they made the vaccine. But in April, May, June were the trials. But by August, they know this was kind of working. And to do that conventionally takes a couple of years, at least in phase 1, phase 2 trials in the industry. So that's the kind of power these tools are giving it to healthcare. So if you're all less than the 45 years mark, but I took my vaccine and about a week back, and it's actually a great feeling as a human society. We are able to react to a virus that just came last year, and we are able to build some kind of protection against it in about 12 months. So that's the kind of thing that technology actually brings in. Yesterday, I was listening to a podcast, a very profound thought somebody shared in that podcast. In the 21st century, or at least the second half of 21st century, from the time now to the rest of the century, most of the inventions or most of the discoveries are not going to be kind of human discovery. Somebody is not going to discover something. So these discoveries are going to happen more by computation. You're going to throw lots and lots of data onto a computer for a problem, and the computer is going to figure out a possible set of solutions that you will further experiment and figure it out. So it's not an idea popping up in somebody's head, then becomes a discovery that's going to happen in the century. It's more going to be somebody has an idea, he puts it, computation happens, and then you pick up the best ideas, and then you start working on them. That's how, so most of the discoveries are going to be computed in the century. So that's what these tools are being used. Of course, in communication, we all know this is being used. Let's also look at some other areas in some, just a second, yeah, some lesser known areas. The first 6 that I talked about, you might have been already familiar with, but these are some areas I want you to think about. Okay, so one is military and defense. Every amount of money is being spent. Even yesterday, US government signed up a $22 billion deal with Microsoft to actually buy their HoloLens, about 120,000 or something for their thing. You know, all these remote drones being fighting wars in Iraq, Afghanistan. So it's not only more about sensing, it's more actually fighting the war. These drones are killer drones now. They can actually, predator drones can actually fire and destroy a whole neighborhood. So military and defense is one of the largest spenders today on AI. China is heavily investing on this. In fact, I will even say in the next few years, China will be overtaking US on the military applications, though they may not be in the size, but in the applications and in the maturity and what they are using on. They are heavily investing. And also, of course, the cyber warfare, that's again a completely different thing. Today, it's not a one hacker, a 19-year-old kid sitting somewhere and then trying to hack into some systems. It's more state-sponsored, that a state actor is actually going against their victim or another government or another entity, and then finding vulnerabilities. Last month, you would have read about some 50,000, 60,000 Microsoft Exchange servers were hacked, and US government departments were taken over by suspected Russian hackers. And this is not something you can just do by some hackers. It's actually lots and lots of computation, machine learning happening to find out the vulnerability, go in. So that's the kind of thing that's being used. Second, of course, is construction. That's again a lesser known industry. A lot of the infrastructure spend, again, going back after the pandemic, the US government, President Biden has been talking about a nearly $1.9 trillion. Okay, that's kind of nearly the size of the Indian GDP totally. So that's the kind of money that he's talking about spending in infrastructure. And I know a friend who's running a large infrastructure company in the US, and they see huge amount of growth to happen there. And for that kind of growth, you can't be doing this data crunching manually. You need these systems. That's where these systems are coming. Last is, of course, agriculture, new combination, new food type, new ways in which they can be grown. And you are going to see more vertical farming, things like that, where these are the things that you will be able to produce crops when you really need them and not even store them. Those kind of very, very smart things are going to happen in agriculture, or is already happening by using machine learning and tools like this. So what I want you to do is think about these lesser known areas where AI is being used. And if you're doing projects, you can think of course, you can't build a killer drone, that is probably prohibited, but then you can try out to simulate these things and see, can I build something that can help in military or defense? If you're able to do something there, then you can be rest assured you will get a placement in any of the companies, or even there are a lot of government departments. If you haven't explored joining the Indian Army or Air Force, they are having large departments now to do work on AI and computation. You should check them out. If you're eligible, you have an interest, you are in NCC, please check them out. There's a lot of fascinating things happening there. If you want to go to other countries, Israel, you know about the compulsory serving in Israel for students. For 2 years, they take a break. They have to serve the army. And there, those kids who are trained on computers, who have a knowledge, who know AI or who have a flair, they are being put completely on this. They are using them to write. Israel is one of the largest providers of security software worldwide. And they are using these kids to come up with new methods, new algorithms, stuff like that. And 20% of those students who finished their 2-year term and worked on these departments in Israel, they come out and start their startups. Some of those startups today are billion-dollar companies. So you should check them out. Israel startups and defense and their AI. There are lots of videos on YouTube. They are doing extremely fascinating work. Check them out. The last one, of course, is education and sports. These are things that we already know, we have seen. Today, Baiju is like, whatever, I don't remember, last I checked, about $18 billion company, and they're buying White Junior, so many other things. And why are they buying? What's the kind of money they're spending? It's all for their machine learning algorithm, their usage, their behavior, what students are learning, what is the effective way to learn. And can I track the eye of students? And none of you have your cameras open now. I can't even figure out your responses. But then when in future, or even now, like you're writing your online exams, your camera has to be on. That will become important. And today, even cars are tracking eye contact. And if you're dozing, then the car is going to slow down. So education is also going to happen. Whether I'll enjoy those being sitting in a classroom where I'll be monitored always by an AI camera, I'm not sure, but that's where things are going. Of course, sports, we have seen a lot of work that's happening in IPL, etc. And then manufacturing. Okay. Lesser known secrets. These are some areas where you might not have thought about AI being used, but they are also being used. This is one of the fastest growing area, security and forensic. Today, as more and more things and more of these acts being done, and even power, we earlier thought it's only in some James Bond movies that power distribution will be shut down, or dams will be shut down by a remote hacking, but today it's happening. There are even areas, there are even places where these could be simulated and checked out. The other day I was seeing a program on a documentary. There is a place in the US, some industry, some company has built, where there is a mini dam and hydroelectric power and a distribution network all built. And it's connected to a network, and you can go and hack these networks and try out your security software. This is available today. That's the kind of importance people are giving. If you have a passion for security, you're good at solving problems, you're good at directing, you like your James Bonds and all those other kind of crime fighting thing, then, and if you have a good knowledge on AI, security and forensic is a wonderful area you should explore. If there is one area I will say which is going to grow phenomenally in the next 5-10 years, it will be security and forensic. Of course, defense was the earlier one, and this is kind of related to that, but then there's so much of opportunity. Again, I was reading an article a couple of days back that was talking, I think in BBC, which was talking about images. Every image sensor we have in our camera, whether it's a smartphone or a digital camera or a webcam like this, those image sensors, where it's actually your optical signals are converted to electrical signals, and you're able to decipher the color and the intensity, the hue and all that. Each of those sensors, each of those dots, each of those pixels, if I were to simplify, is having an imperfection. And with that, you can figure out whether a photo is being photoshopped or not. I take 2 photographs and then Photoshop them, and you just can't say by seeing human eye whether they have been doctored or Photoshopped. By figuring out each individual pixels, the imperfections in these from the image sensor that they came, forensic experts can actually figure out whether this was Photoshop, this was 2 camera photos, this is not one single camera. Those are extremely important because courts are now asking, when somebody gives a proof of a digital photograph, the court is asking, is this a real photograph or is it being doctored? And somebody has to find out these. And there is so much of work happening there. And of course, then there is deep fakes. You had videos in the US of Trump speaking when he was not really speaking, and so many other people talking when and forged videos. And it's only starting. I'm surprised in India, in our election campaigns, we haven't seen about somebody saying something. But our leaders are very smart. They don't want an AI to do a deep fake. They themselves are kind of say things that they shouldn't really be saying, kind of dumb. But then a lot of malicious things could be done. And when a malicious video is broadcasted by a deep fake, it can destroy communal harmony. It can create a civil war. It can go really bad. And these things are very, very likely scenario. And who can prevent them? Engineers like us. If we can have smarter algorithms, if Facebooks and your WhatsApp can figure out that this is a deep fake, this is a doctored video, then a lot of good things can be done. It's not an easy problem to solve. And that's why we'll have jobs. If the problems are easy to solve, then none of us need to work. Machines can actually do our jobs. So security and forensic, think about it. It's a wonderful area to do a lot of things. The second area you might have known about it, but you wouldn't have given thought, is entertainment. Today, lots and lots of Hollywood movies and even Indian movies are actually done with a lot of image capturing, a lot of simulation. And recently, I think I saw this, The Lion King, the new one. It was fascinating. Okay, if you haven't seen the latest Lion King, of course, you should see it in a theater. But then if you're going, then it's not available in any theater, but at least check it online. But watch it in a 4K display. It's fascinating what they are able to recreate those real life images of those lions. This was amazing. And that's only starting. It's only tip of the iceberg. Lots and lots of work are being done there. The upcoming avatars, whenever they come, it's all like 80-90% going to be generated by computers. And there's lots and lots of AI and ML working there. Government, we discussed defense and government. Government is using, especially in this pandemic, lots and lots of machine learning. One of the largest users, I think, of machine learning in India today, data set, if I were to make a guess, it might be the income tax and the GST departments. So much of what we do today is collated by income tax and GST. And with April 1, a lot more data is also being added to the thing. So that's also, if you're interested in civil service, you want to write IAS and do something, then look at it. You don't think you can become just a paper pusher with IAS. With your computer skills, AI skills, you can actually work in government departments, literally building the software that will power the future India. So there are a lot of things you can do. So what I want you to do in the last few slides is that don't think of AI jobs or only what is available with your Microsofts, Googles, or Infosys, Accentures. No, everybody is using these tools. Even if the indication, if our government is using something, then it's like really mature. It's like come of age. So think of those things. We'll switch gears. We'll look at some of the major job roles in AI. I won't be going into detail, but just want to give you an idea. When you think about a job in AI, it helps you to think about this. I can make this slides available from my blog if you want to refer to it later. Or in my Twitter, it's at Venkat. And then if you just go there, I'll try to share this deck there. The typical job roles in AI are, I'll split them into AI and data. AI is AI scientist and AI scale engineer. There are only a handful of AI scientists, or maybe probably about 100, in the world. These are the people who are extremely good in mathematics, and they actually create these algorithms, and there are very few of them. Everybody need not become these AI scientists. You have an interest in that, that is phenomenal, because there's just about probably a few hundreds. There's a lot of scope there, but it's very, very intense work. You have to be extremely smart. Okay, I probably can't even understand more than half of those words there. But that's the kind of work that happens as an AI scientist. Then there is an AI scale engineer. This is a job that really interests me, is that you create your backend that can really scale, whether it is your Swiggies or your Ubers or Amazons or whatever. How do those systems scale? When we talk about these systems are able to train, how are they able to train? How are they able to build those thousands and thousands of machines which are able to talk cohesively? For example, companies like Freshdesk, where they have thousands of users, or your Zogos, or you take your Microsoft, at the end of a day or whatever periodicity they have determined, they run thousands of training model again, kind of retrain that data with the last 24 hours so that their algorithm can actually do something better the next day. So somebody has to ensure these systems scale, and that's the job of an AI scale engineer. Then these are also AI jobs and machine learning jobs, but I like to more call them as data jobs just to understand them better. Is that there's a data scientist. These are the guys again who kind of understand these algorithms detail. They are more statisticians. They have a love for data. They are great in mathematics, and they also have an ability to convert business problems to machine learning problem. You can't tell a computer that, okay, I have so many soaps, I want to sell it pan India. How do I manufacture them? That's not something the machine is going to understand. Somebody has to understand it, convert it to a machine learning problem. That's what these data scientists do. And this is a growing job in India, because as the outsourcing capital of the world, we are doing a lot of these jobs, and somebody has to do this. If you are good in mathematics, this is a job you should really look at it. It takes your time. You may not join as a data scientist. You might join as a trainee and you will climb your ladder up, but that's really a big thing. Then there's data engineers. These are the actual people who write the code, who manipulate the data, who massage the data, who come up with these reports, who actually do the actual inference based on this data. A software engineer developing software, a data engineer doesn't develop data. He kind of infers, he kind of manages and comes up with solutions from that data. Data labelers, these are more probably not for your qualification, but these are people who taken this data, write all this tagging, do the actual training process, go through the workflow. Then there's data pipeline engineer. This is actually a new type of job that's been coming in the last 12 to 18 months. These are the people who kind of walk through the entire pipeline of a data, right from the point you capture this data, you format them, because the raw data that's coming from IoT devices or your mobile may not be so useful, or you crunch them and then you give it them onto the models that your data scientist has actually built, and you run it on a day-to-day basis. So those will be the job. Of course, somebody calls it data engineer, somebody calls it data pipeline engineer, somebody calls it data workflow engineer. These are just terminology, but these are broadly the type of jobs that actually happen. Let's switch gears and just give me a second. I just have some water. Sorry. So I took the screenshot yesterday. I was going through Accenture's website and this caught me. A country like Czech Republic is having so many jobs open for they call it as applied intelligence. I probably think it's a fancy term of calling AI. This is the type of jobs. And if you see the fifth one, the bottom center is information security CART forensic specialist. I was talking about security and forensic, right? So there are two jobs you can see on forensic and security. So this in a country like Czech. So think about, extrapolated in your minds, what will be the number of jobs available in a mature market like US or India or rest of the other countries? There's so much of opportunity everywhere. People are hiring these people. Jobs in the US, this is from dice.com. Again, data I picked up yesterday. Dice.com, your popular job site in the US, they publish this data on all the job descriptions, job types that are requesting machine learning or ML. And the first one is, of course, a software engineer. There are 1 million jobs posted. 3% of those job postings actually ask for ML. A software developer job you want to join, they're actually asking you should know ML. And the thing is, 3% is not big. You look at something else, data engineers, it's 18%, or you take a data scientist, obviously the one I talked about in the last slide, is 68%. You can obviously understand that data scientist needs to know ML because that's exactly what is the job. That's 68% of the jobs. 42,000 jobs of a data scientist. Out of that 42,000 jobs, 68% are asked to have ML job requirement. Why? But why does a software developer, 3% of those jobs out of those million are required to know ML? That's what DICE is seeing. Why is it significant? Is because 30% this requirement is going to grow. What does it mean? Next year, this 3.1 is going to become 4, and next year 5, and then after that it's probably going to exponentially grow. So 3-4 years now, and if you have recently just joined your engineering or MCA, next 3-4 years, by the time you graduate, the percentage of jobs, even for a software developer entry level, requirement of you knowing ML is going to be by 10-15%. And in India, I suppose it will be more. So if you want to land those good jobs, good companies, then you need to know ML. That's what this data actually points it to. There's a lot of other data you can go through them. A data engineer, 18% of those jobs require it, and so on and so forth. I find it interesting. A business management analyst, 0.8% or 1% of those jobs require them to know ML, and that's growing 14%. So somebody who's not an engineer, who's a business analyst in MBA, he's also required to know ML or have an appreciation of ML. That's where this trend is going. Okay. Then let's look at Monster. Monsters, I just searched on these popular frameworks in Chennai, Bangalore, and Bombay, just for getting a sense of TensorFlow, Keras, NLP, Cognitive, TNO, Macro, Spark. I just picked up some randomly, some 6-7 frameworks of ML. And then I searched, there are 3,000 jobs that are being posted in Monster. And again, you look at it, some of those jobs are actually interesting. There's a data scientist opening, which I was really, really surprised. And Tech Mahindra has a senior data scientist. I don't know what's senior about data scientist itself. Is like you're president of a company. There is nothing bigger than a president, but then Indian companies have very fancy titles. I've had in my people coming back to me in job appraisals, they aren't worried about their job responsibility. They're worried about their salary. But once that's done, they don't ask how many people I manage, what is the kind of responsibility. They say, what's my title? And that's really, I found it very funny because titles vary. A director in Microsoft is reporting to a GM, but in a different company, a director is actually a board member. So titles actually mean very, very little. And it took me a lot of time, probably 10-15 years to understand. And recently I had a conversation with a friend of mine who runs a large, who's a VP of placements in a large IT outsourcing company. And I was having this conversation with him. And I was glad to know that students like you who are coming out now, they are not very worried about title. They are more worried about job satisfaction. What is the job you're doing? That's a good, healthy trend. I have seen in my customers, whether it is Microsoft or large Fortune 100 companies, the guy will be having 10-15 years experience, but he'll be called an engineer at whatever level is seniority. That's a different thing. That's how he's being compensated. But he's just called an engineer, software engineer, and he'll be a JavaScript software engineer, if you want to say that. And 10-15 years, he'll be working on JavaScript. And the guy will write fabulous, fabulous JavaScript. In India, we like to work for 3 years, 4 years as developer. We want to become team leads, module leads, team leads, project manager. And in 10 years, we stop writing code. And that thing is changing now. The industry you're going in, you're going to be writing code for a long, long time than us. But then that's how these people, once they are working on a particular technology for a long time, they become extremely good at it. So that's what probably a senior data scientist will be. This is with Indeed. Indeed is talking about, I found it interesting. Of course, there's an engineer artificial intelligence job. There is machine learning and artificial intelligence engineer. Okay, all these are very interesting job titles. And the last one is interesting. There's an AA internship at a company in Trivandrum. So look at that. The salary is not very interesting, but that's not the point. But again, it's internship. So look at people advertising for internship on a site like Indeed. So if you get a chance to work in a company internship, please take it up because there's a lot of opportunities there. Let's move on. So what can I do now? I am in studying now. What can I do? Choose your projects wisely. That's the first thing I will tell you. If you're interested to work in this area, pick up a project where you can use this ML so that when you see your resume is not going to be differentiated. We take people for resumes in a intern in a startup. I'm helping a friend in the US on fintech, even from SRM, your main campus. But all the resumes look more or less the same, but some stand out. Why do they stand out? Because of their projects. So pick up their project. It need not, you don't need to crack the world. You don't need to build the next Swiggy. But then pick up a project where you have done some portion of ML and used it intelligently in an area. That's all. You may not have large amount of data. That's not the point. See, there is a bit of originality which is important, but more important is how have you done it? How have you gone about doing it? Look at internship. It's one of those fabulous most useful tool that you can ever use to land up in a good job. Or the experience that you get in an internship, even if you're doing a startup on your own, is going to be phenomenal. So don't lose the opportunity. If you get an opportunity, please take up an internship. That will tell you real world experience and a lot of things. There's, of course, a lot of online courses. You all know about your Coursera's, edX, and Udemy's of the world. Check them out. Do a course. Don't start a course and stop it. That looks very bad. When somebody logs in and sees your public profile, you started lots of courses and you haven't finished. Doesn't look good. So actually start something, finish it. If you don't like it, then if the site allows, delete it. Don't leave it hanging for a long time. Something which you haven't touched for 3 months, you're not going to touch it ever. So just delete it off. Okay. GitHub, it's most important. When we took internship next to the project, before I do interviews, I shortlist, I go to these GitHub projects. If the students are put in there, and go and see and read those code. It's very important. Don't think nobody is going to look at those code. Maybe when they are hiring 100 people from campus, they may not, but those internships, those smaller companies where you'll actually learn something, they will go through in your GitHub. And some of those larger companies, believe me, have tools which can go through your GitHub repository automatically from your resume and actually find out your code is original, you're copied. They can give you a lot of intelligence, more than what you can think. And each of those gets you a point when people are shortlisting you. So if you have a GitHub project, make it active, put some good, your original code there. If you don't want to, don't put it at all. Don't put something that is bad. Don't put something that is copied just for the sake of it. Last, try to do YouTube videos. Again, I just picked up YouTube. It could be any other platform. So that tells you when people are interested, especially in internship or when you are going for a fresher job out of campus, there has to be a way that people can shortlist you. You put some good YouTube videos, they can go and look at your videos and they can actually see your communication is good. You are able to stand in front of a camera and talk. Today, I'm used to, earlier, all the 20 years I've done talks for Microsoft and around the world, I'm used to audience about 3,000 people, 4,000 people. Talking to a camera was very hard for me. But in the last 1 year, what all of us have learned is how to talk to a camera. And that's something which is going to become even more important in the months to come. So please do some YouTube videos. If you're not even posting it, making them will give you the experience. That will be really useful. And that's something you can do when you're a student, you can try out a lot of these things. You do a mistake, nothing, no harm done. Nobody is going to be worried about. Students do make mistakes, but then be careful. Today's social media, don't post anything on politics or religion or those sensitive data that might haunt you for ages. But just try out something on technology, your opinions, your views, trying out something, post it. It's really useful. Okay, that's what you can do when you are in the college. Now, what you can do after you leave MCA, you can go for higher studies. You can start your business on your own. Startup today, now is one of the best time to do a startup. But be ready till this pandemic clarity is going to come. Funding is going to take a longer time, especially seed A or your angel funding. But once you've got your angel funding, seed A, seed B, there's plenty of money available today in India. Lot of money. People don't have investments. Bank rates are low. There is no bonds are not giving good returns. So they are putting all this money on startups. There's a lot of money available. But your seed, your angel funding, seed funding, you should be able to figure it out. You should be able to come up with a POC first. And if you're able to do that, this is one of the best time for you to do a startup. You can get the talent around the world because you don't need to have an office now, no fixed cost, no receptionist, no security, nothing you need. You can just go to your Googles or Amazons or Microsoft and start a virtual machine and do a team collaborating system. And then you can have your startup. It doesn't cost you much. But if you're able to do that and come up with a POC, today is a fabulous time to do startups. Get a job. That's what we have been talking all about. We'll also see that in the next few slides. Life after MCA. This is from a book of a friend of mine written. I'll give you a link at the end. This is called A Job Before Graduation by my friend Gokul Santanam. I borrowed this slide from him. And these are some myths that he actually shatters when he talks to students in the book. Job market is hot and I have an MBA or an MCA. I don't need to worry. I will get a job. Though job market is today is hot. There's a lot of hiring happening. Those are lateral hiring, meaning people with experience. Fresher hirings, if the pandemic is going to go worse, from now till end of this year in India, it's not going to be so good next year. So if you're graduating next year, 2022, hopefully things will be good, but don't bet on it. It may not be great. So you really have to stand above your friends. So you have to be really good. Just because you're clear and you studied in SRM, placements will come, I'll get a job. Don't take it for granted. Things can change in the next 12 months. Nobody would have predicted last year about this pandemic, and nobody can predict how this pandemic is going to go in the next 12 months. 2023, probably if you're graduating in 23, 24, 25, market is going to be much better. So you'll have a better chance of landing job. But if you're going to look out for jobs this year and next year, freshers, it's going to be a bit tough. I'm not saying impossible, but it's going to be tough. So you have to do all those other recommendations I was talking about earlier. Same thing, old goods, just because you are out of SRM, don't take things for granted. Okay. The other myth is that I need to do higher studies to get placed. That's again, it is your interest. I will strongly recommend you do an higher studies. If you're doing a BA, look at doing an MS or even an MBA if that is your interest. But if you don't have interest and you're already good in what you're doing, you've already done lots of projects, you've done internship, you're waiting, dying to go into a job, go ahead, do that. You don't need to do higher studies just for getting placed. And this is a big myth because you are in a popular college. Don't assume companies will find you. It's company's responsibility to take me and train me. I don't need to learn ML. I don't need to learn any of these containers and Kubernetes and all that. Company, when they take me, they will train me. That's not a good attitude. Train as much as you can when you're in college because your mind is tuned to learning. One of the things that I always keep saying, as an engineer, my college taught me was how to learn and how to approach a problem. I don't remember, I studied electronics and communication. I don't remember how a radio works, but I do remember how do I solve a problem? How do I learn something? That's a skill that engineering colleges have taught us. That's what you need to use. So don't wait for companies to find you. Last, we are at the end of the talk almost. Jobs at risk at automation. This is something that especially you may not be so worried about it, but whenever I speak in the industry, people are worried. Venkat, I'm working in so-and-so job. I'm working as a front-end engineer, back-end engineer. I'm working as a SQL developer. Is my job going to be taken over by automation? If you ask a question like that, yes, almost all the jobs are going to be taken over by automation. One of the highest paying jobs today is a neurosurgeon. Okay. So this man has done, operating on our brain is one of the most complex things. And this man has paid probably thousands of dollars an hour for the surgery because there are only a handful of people in the world who can operate on your brain. But then once automation and robotics have already started, but then they take over, those robots can actually learn from millions of those surgeries around the world what can go wrong. And they will be the best neurosurgeon. And a neurosurgeon suddenly will lose its importance and machines will do that. Job will be taken over by automation. But no robot is going to comfort a patient. Boss, don't worry, you will be fine. Or doing what a nurse typically does, or your what boy does, or those assistants in the lab that does. Those are jobs that are not going to go away. That doesn't mean you should look at those lesser paying jobs. The point is there are jobs where robots are not going to be good for many, many years. Those jobs which we think today are the most sophisticated are going to be done by automation. This data is very interesting by McKinsey. 66% of job done by men today in China is going to be automated by 2030. 44% of those jobs are men. Why I'm saying men? Just wait a minute. I don't know how many of women are in this. Mr. Krishmurthy, how many women? Any idea here? How many percentage of women now listening to the talk?
Sir, actually 125 students are listening, sir.
Okay, out of that, how many female students?
I have to count, sir. Just
roughly, generally.
50 or 50.
Okay, thank you. That's
thank you,
that's a good proportion. So if you're a woman, you should actually rejoice. The jobs that you will be getting, those will not be taken over by automation by 2030. Only 12% will be taken over. Okay, it's a very interesting data. You should actually go and do some, if you're women or even if you're a man, you might want to go to that URL and study what those things. I hope these are not lesser paying jobs that are being given to the women. I hope they are the most prestigious jobs given to them. But then this is what the data says by McKinsey. So when you think about automation, jobs being taken over, it's don't paint in one single brush. There is a lot of minute details. Okay, those percentages are actually less in European countries where I thought it will be more. It's very interesting. Data is always throws up very interesting insights. Lastly, next steps after graduating, what you can do. These are things whether you are now, we talked about what you can do now, your internship projects and so on. These are things that you haven't found a job after you're graduating, no placement has been done. That's not the end of the world. Okay, sometimes the job you get out of placement might also be very good, because those are jobs that you really go out and seek and they have really taken you. Your growth path might be better there. What you can do if you're after graduating, improve your online offline presentation, because when you're in a placement, companies come, you are put in front of them. But when you actually go to a company or online interviews, you have to present yourself to them. They are not going to come to you. So that changes the dynamics. So you have to improve your presentation skills. I talked about talking to camera and all that. Then attend local industry events. This is one big advantage now with the pandemic. Almost all the industry bodies, whether it is NASCOM, TIE or IEEE, all of them have opened their events for anybody to walk in. Microsoft events like Ignite, which used to be $2,000, you have to go to the US, spend $2,000 on one of those fancy Las Vegas hotels, and you have to attend and you have to fly $2,000. So about $6,000 I have to spend to go to a Microsoft event every year in the US, or your Apple events. It costs so much money. Today, those events are free because of the pandemic. All you have to do is sit on the US time. That I don't mind. You sleep in the morning and then sit throughout the day, throughout the night, and you can attend those events and it's free. So Google's event is coming in the next few months. Facebook is coming. Apple is coming. If you have time, please, 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 I will urge you very strongly to register to those events. It's free now. Only in the pandemic, it will be free and it will be online. Afterwards, they will revert to the offline mechanism. So register and attend. And don't only go for the US events, attend your local events. Those are the people who are going to give you jobs. So attend those local events that are happening, because it's all online. So you'll see people, how industry is making a presentation, how industry is, what topics, what is being taught. Even attend startup events. Even if you don't have an idea to do a startup, there's a lot of those startup forums, venture capitalist forums that are all available. Just go to Facebook, search those groups, become a member and attend these events. You'll know what are they talking, what is the language they are speaking, and it's free. See, today, one commodity that you have as students is time. And that's your biggest asset. So attend these events. You will have so much idea. Maybe you ask intelligent questions. Somebody might see that and be impressed and offer you an interview. But that's serendipity. Don't bet on it. But then that's a possibility. This is something I always tell people. Don't just blanketly apply to all companies, which you might want to do. But then even in that shortlist companies that you really want to work, that captures your imagination, make that list. And try to see whether your friends is working. They may not need to do a recommendation for you, though they will do because they have referral bonus. They might tell you, how is this company? Okay, if my cousin sister in the US, she was having a job offer. She's about 15 years experience. She's a big time designer in the US and all that. She was having a job offer from Google. What is that? Next. And she also got a job in Facebook team. And she didn't know which one to pick up. And a couple of my friends, my college, my alumni network, they were working in Google and Facebook. I connected them to her and she spoke which one she picked up because it's her choice. But then she was able to understand how's the job in Google, how's the job in Facebook and all that. And she was very happy she made the right choice. And that she was able to do through my friends in the alumni network. So there is a lot of your alumni network. Shortlist those companies, talk to them. You are planning to join this company, ask them, how's this company? So those are some interesting things you can do so that you can avoid mistakes. Don't wait for advertisements, seek out the companies. Generally, people say, HR professional says, don't do a blanket email that I'm looking for a job. But you don't need to wait for their advertisements. You can go to their site, seek out and follow their Twitter, follow their Facebook. There's so much of opportunity today. And ask your friends, go and ask them. And if you don't ask, your brother's friends or your cousin brothers may not be knowing you're looking for a job. Ask them. Ask anybody that you are looking for a job, but closer people directly. People you don't know, just follow them. So you'll know when they put out for some of those things when people put out it on Twitter. The other day, a friend of mine was actually advertising for a very interesting job role in Twitter, and immediately a few hundred people applied. And that's a very interesting job role. He wouldn't have given it to his HR. He was personally He was a CEO, is personally calling out for those resumes in Twitter. You would have missed it out if you're going through the traditional HR route. Last thing, students ask me whether I should improve my business knowledge or my technical expertise. I will say today, unfortunately, you have to do both. You need to be good, understand a business, also have a great technical expertise. You're going to look at a manufacturing industry, say a biscuit company, you are going to work in the software development division. You need to know how biscuits are done because you are going to put sensors there. If you don't know what is baking, you put a sensor and you get data, you won't understand what data to look at. So you need to know a bit of baking if you're working in a biscuit company. The other day, I was talking to a friend of mine who's working in Silicon, the CPU manufacturing company. He's in the AI division, and he's not in the designing of chips, but he's actually in those fabricating. He said, I spent 6 months understanding this fabrication process before I sat down actually to work and write these models or train them, because that is so much happening there. If I don't understand, I won't be able to improve the process. So you need to understand both business and technical. This is the book I was talking about. You might want it's available online and all that. It gives you practical tips. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. Thank you so much for all of you for listening to me. I was not expecting it to go all the full hour, but then I can take